All right, we are streaming on YouTube.
What?
Sorry, I was talking to my brother.
Okay.
I said we are currently streaming on YouTube. And let me get the cloud recording. It's there. I can pause it for now.
Come on, Carla, where are you?
Ah, there she is.
Hey, how you doing, Carla? You want to unmute?
Sorry, I'm well. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. We're so happy to have you. We're all really excited about this thing. And if you want to go ahead and do a test run, I've got Kelly, who's our digital wizard, on hand in case there are problems.
Great. Yes, let me just minimize these. I did practice it once just to make sure, because I'm not very technically, I'm not that talented. So, okay, here we go. Share screen. And then I believe if I click this, okay, and then I need to go to full screen and I have to get rid of my video. Tell me if you can still see the concert though.
I can see the play button. It says Florence B. Price, 5 folk songs and counterpoint. It's playing.
And
there's no sound.
But there's no sound.
Ah. What about now?
No. For the sound to be on, you have to turn on the share sound when you're first sharing the screen. Oh. There's an option that says to share sound.
Okay.
All right,
where would that be? Okay, let me try. I'm going to stop sharing for a second. And I'm going to see advanced sharing options. Okay. Multiple.
I can share my. Wait, no.
Let me try this.
What kind of device are you on?
I'm on a MacBook Air.
Yeah. When you click the share screen button, you're going to see a dialog that opens up with all the windows, and at the bottom left, it's going to say share computer sound. There's a checkbox.
Oh, I see. I see. Mine's at the top, and I see stop recording meeting. Share computer sound. Got it. Okay, now. Is that working?
Yes.
Great.
All the way up? Is there a
it should be. Let me try. Let's play that again. Yes, it's all the way up.
Okay.
Okay, so Kelly, when I share the screen, I need to make sure to press that every time, right?
Yes. You could just leave it up now if you.
Oh yeah, sure. And then somebody else can talk about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's right when we have when it's 6:30. We're just gonna start. I'll make a few introductions and say thank you, and then turn it over to Carla.
Great. And you know what? It might be. Yeah, you can turn it over to me, or one of my colleagues can talk about the what's going on, the program. I see Carlos is there. Well, Kelly, can you just can you confirm with me that you are seeing my screen, but you're not seeing my little window, right?
Yeah, I can see your screen.
Okay, cool. So yeah, and somebody else,
you can introduce the group and then have somebody else do the.
Sure.
How do you want to handle it? I'll just turn it over to you guys and you run with it.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Great.
What'd you think of the inauguration today?
It was pretty great.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very uplifting.
Yes.
And makes me feel so much better about the future of our country, particularly that 22-year-old poet laureate. Wow.
Yeah, she was really something.
Woo.
Really phenomenal, very beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes, very moving.
Have you heard the inauguration fanfares?
I don't think so. I wasn't able to, sign into all of it.
I don't know when they were actually broadcast. It was supposed to be part of a virtual concert they were going to watch.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like members of the New York Phil and a few other orchestras across the country. And they're doing the fanfare for the Common Man of Copeland, but then the Joan Tower fanfare for the Uncommon Woman in celebration of Common.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So pretty cool.
Yes, very. So are we, I am going to just stop my shares because I figured out how to do it. So I should be able to do it. And that way I can actually talk to the kids with my actual face, which I think would be good.
Hi there, good evening.
Hello. I have Paul here. He's on my here. Let me change our name. You want to use share?
This is, oh, here we go.
So it was a full day. I saw your schedule. Full day of activities for you, right?
Oh man, it's been a full day, but it's been a happy day.
Oh, good, wonderful.
And having you and your group performing the repertoire that you're performing just puts a fantastic, happy cap on it. It's fantastic. We're all very, very excited and looking forward to it. And I have a question. For my own selfish purposes, is any of the music you're performing tonight by Florence Price available to borrow for a summer festival? I have a kids concert that I write, and we're doing a road trip, and I'm trying to. We're going to a lot of different places in the country, and I would like to stop off in Chicago and maybe feature Florence Price's music.
Absolutely.
I would add that it's not that accessible for younger people.
No, they don't have to play it. They're listening to it. This is the Carmel Bach Festival. It's a kids concert that I write. But if like one of your Florence Price pieces is available, I'd be curious if we could rent it, buy it.
Well, definitely. When is this?
It's in July.
We'll definitely have something by then. So check back.
Yeah.
All right.
Email
Good.
us and we'll work it out.
Okay, awesome. All right, well, it's 6:30, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm Suzanne Mudge, Executive Director for Youth Music Monterey, and I would like to introduce some of the staff that's on hand. Our Music Director, Danko Drusko, Elise Rabideau, who is our South County Strings Director, Kelly Wong, our Digital Wizard, Jean Gavrin, who runs development, and then I think we have a few board members here, our Board President, Dorothy Micheletti, Ed Gavrin, and Peter Meckel might be in there somewhere. Joanne Hatch as well. Thank you, Joanne and Russell, for continuing to support our Fresh Perspectives series, of which this Catalyst Quartet is a part of. We'd like to give special thanks to Chamber Music Monterey Bay, who has made this performance possible as part of their educational outreach. We are so incredibly fortunate to be a recipient of this incredible gift. So thank you, thank you, thank you, Chamber Music Monterey Bay and Amy Anderson. I'm now going to turn it over to Carla Donahue Perez, who will take
I want to tag on that. We're all fortunate to know Amy and the work that she does with Chair Music Monterey. It's incredible. It's one of the first places that we played as a string quartet. It was in our first couple years. And Amy has been an angel to us, as I'm sure she's felt like an angel to you all. And the work that Chair Music Monterey Bay has done is with commissioning, with outreach, with community engagement, is just really incredible. So a double thank you to Amy and Chair Music Monterey Bay.
Bravi tutti.
Yes. So, my name is Carla Donahue-Perez, and I'm one of the violinists in the Catalyst Quartet. I'm so excited to be here with all of you today. We're going to play about 45-minute concert or so of our music from our project that's called the Uncovered Project. And this is something that we set out to do approximately 2.5 to 3 years ago, when we decided that we thought it was really important to record all of the string quartet applicable repertoire by historically important Black composers. And, you know, one of the reasons for this is we had some really wonderful colleagues, friends of ours that we work with, who started bringing these works to our attention and playing them. And we were, you know, hearing these works, and we're like, there's amazing, beautiful music. Why don't people play this? So we started doing a lot of research, and we realized that this music is just not, it's underrepresented. It's not played enough. There aren't enough recordings. It's hard to find the music. So we kind of did a pretty crazy thing, and we decided we're going to record all of it. So for the next few years, we're going to be putting out many albums, and each album is going to feature one or more different historically important Black composers. Now, the first album is coming out next month, and that's going to have all of Samuel Coleridge Taylor's string quartet and a piano quintet and a clarinet quintet. But what you're going to hear tonight is going to be from future volumes. So we're going to have a little bit of Florence Price, her 5 folk songs in counterpoint. And then we're going to have George Walker, his really beautiful lyric for strings. And then we're going to close with Coleridge Taylor Perkinson's String Quartet No. 1. And I would like to hand it over to one of my other colleagues if they wanted to talk a little bit more about the music itself that you're going to hear tonight. Oh. Carla?
Well, I'll start off. I guess we'll work maybe end to the beginning. You know, one of the pieces on this program that I personally find to be super interesting is Coleridge Taylor Perkinson String Quartet No. 1, which is titled Calvary. So, you know, there is sort of a connection between the Florence Price 5 folk songs in counterpoint and the Perkinson String Quartet No. 1. Interestingly enough, that connection being the Florence Price is based off of these 5 folk songs, one of which is Calvary. And so both in the Florence Price and the Perkinson, you'll hear the same folk song theme used in the piece. And that's a really nice, beautiful connection there. But another thing that I find so interesting about Perkinson is that he was a very multifaceted composer. It was really exciting to discover, both within this piece and also while studying him as a person and a composer, to discover that his compositional career spanned far beyond just classical music. Perkinson, he was very, very involved in the jazz community, which you'll hear is evident in this piece. There's a lot of allusions to sort of jazz harmonies and rhythms. And he also wrote music for films. He wrote music that was for dance. And in this 20-minute piece of music, you sort of get a kind of biographical history of who Coleridge Taylor Perkinson is as a composer. not just as a classical composer for string quartet, but as an entire person, the entire life that he lived, which I think is really, really cool. So keep your ears open for those things, listening for where you hear those different styles starting to creep in to these more classical style.
I want to tag on that of what Abby just said, and it's really special for our quartet in particular to be playing his music. One of our first mentors, his name was Sanford Allen, and he is a violinist, and he was the first African-American member of the New York Philharmonic appointed by Leonard Bernstein. And he commissioned a lot of Coleridge-Taylor-Perkinson's solo violin repertoire and violin repertoire, and has been a source of great inspiration for our quartet as a mentor, as a violinist, and as a trailblazer. And he called him Perky. That was his nickname for him, and it's very special that we're playing this music. I actually happen to have played a string trio of Coleridge-Taylor-Perkinson's with Sanford, and it was a very meaningful moment for me. So doing the quartet now is very special as well. And last season, we celebrated the 50th anniversary with Dance Theater of Harlem, and Coleridge-Taylor-Perkinson was the first music director of Dance Theater of Harlem, which is a really special connection for us as well.
Yeah.
So now I'd like to talk a little bit about
They can see.
the 5 folk songs by Florence Price. So as Abby mentioned, the Calvary theme is a Negro spiritual that comprises the core of the pieces.
And you'll see in Florence Price's work that she takes all of these very, very well-known folk songs and she sort of uses them almost like a compositional etude and takes us on a journey of textures and really interesting harmonies. Florence Price is a really special woman. She was the first African-American woman to have her piece premiered by a major American symphony. And unfortunately, a lot of her music was lost for a very long time until I think it was in 2009, they found a lot of her music in a warehouse in Chicago. And luckily for us, we finally get to celebrate her and all of her wonderful contributions to the repertoire.
Another really cool thing about this piece is there is another set of songs which she sort of made a study of, and we have yet to see that music, but it's coming. And but it's an earlier work. This piece is a later work from the sort of 1950s, I believe, correct? 1950s. And so what she did in this setting, the first setting is completely spiritual based. This setting is more popular song based. So it's great to hear what songs were hits on the radio for Florence Price that she decided that she wanted to then make these counterpoint studies. And I believe you all know what the term counterpoint means, correct? If somebody doesn't know what that means, I think we can have a session on counterpoint at a later date, but you could Google it. We're in the information age. So what Florence Price does, she takes these popular tunes. One of them is Oh My Darling Clementine, which was actually a movie in Florence's time. And so that appears in this setting, along with Swing Low Sweet Chariot, Shortening Bread, Drink to Me with Thine Own Eyes, Calvary, as we already talked about. And so it's a really exciting, cool thing to take the pop tunes of the day. So if any of us were writing a piece based on the popular music of today and wanting to do a counterpoint etude study of these pieces, what would would they be like Ariana Grande? Like what would be going on? So cool to hear what was going on for Florence Price.
I think one of the most exciting things in this program that we're going to play for you tonight to explore in your own listening is to just kind of hear the span of style and manipulation of, what Carlos was mentioning, a pop song and how it gets manipulated and transformed into something completely different. How does the meaning of that pop song or of that melody change for you? Does it change your opinion on what it makes you feel when you are listening to it? I certainly have been on this, and I think I can speak for my colleagues in the Catalyst Quartet, that you really see a different side when you're working and you put these different folk song themes or pop song themes against a different backdrop, which is what these composers do, which is so incredible. And they do it in such a fascinatingly different and unique way. And I think that's a really cool thing to check out and keep your ears open for as you're listening to the concert.
And the last piece on this program is a very beautiful, beautiful work, which exists. Okay, so I'm not gonna mention the composer that it's also like, because that would diminish the work, but there's another piece that's similar in form to this one. And this is the middle movement of George Walker's string quartet. And it has been taken out, he took it out of its own setting as a slow movement in the middle of two very anxiety-filled movements. And he published it as a standalone work, and he titled it Lyric for Strings. There's another string quartet whose middle movement is also a beautiful standalone slow movement. And it also exists for string orchestra, much like the Lyric for Strings of George Walker. We actually came to know this piece as a string quartet as its string version first, the string orchestra version first, which is exceedingly beautiful. And Lyric for Strings, in the setting that you're going to hear tonight, is one of the very first pieces that we ever played as a string quartet together, and it's very special to us for that reason. But much like that other piece that I mentioned, it's so much more difficult as a string quartet than it is as a string orchestra piece. But maybe you all could play this piece, because it does exist and it is published as a string orchestra piece with bass parts and everything. And it's really, really, really beautiful. It's an incredible piece. George Walker, an incredible 20th century composer. He is on our entire Uncovered project. He's the one that brings us most closely to today, because we're talking about music from the 1700s, which is the Chevalier de Saint Georges, and everything in between. And George Walker died most recently, unfortunately, but he did live to be like in his late 90s or something around there. We knew his sister very well. She was a benefactor of ours, and she was the first African-American faculty member at the Oberlin College. And we are actually coming to you live tonight from Cleveland, Ohio, which is not that far from Oberlin, where we've spent time. And we've had many, many beautiful, meaningful afternoons with his sister, Florence Walker, and Florence Slocum Walker Slocum. And she was a wonderful pianist. I believe she composed a bit too. And it was really special to play this piece for her, actually, once upon a time, and to have her sort of feedback about all of that. And also, once upon a time, George Walker did write a tweet about us programming his piece, which was kind of funny. And that tweet actually came in when we were in California, not far from where you are, playing a concert at Chamber Music Monterey.
Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to play this concert for you. So just hold on 1 second while I hopefully do this correctly. Just double check that this is right. Okay. let me know if you can't hear this. I'm just gonna play it and hopefully this is good to go.
Shovel, you're a monkey in the middle. No, Mario. Mario, you're a monkey in the middle. Catch!
Wow. Fantastic.
Thank you.
I mean, it just a tremendous body of music, and all of it's just so amazing. I've heard the George Walker piece many times, but only with string orchestra. And I know George Walker because I'm a trombone player, and I've played his trombone concerto. I learned of it back in grad school, which was like a gazillion years ago. But anyway, thank you so much. I think at this point we should open up for questions from our audience. So you may type them into the chat, or if you, probably type them into the chat, because right now we don't have a gallery view and it's hard to see everyone. So please have at it.
Are there any questions we missed while back there? We have our first question, new one. Says, who inspired you to play?
I was inspired by going to concerts as a kid. I grew up in Miami, Florida, and I was fortunate enough to be dragged to a lot of concerts. And because nobody in my family is really a classical musician around me, I have an uncle who is a very celebrated opera singer, but he was off all over the world doing his thing. So I didn't really grow up with that. But definitely concerts and exposure to a lot of music inspired me to want to do something with music for myself in my own life.
Myself, unlike Carlos, I actually have been steeped in a musical family. I'm the youngest of 4 children of musical parents. All of us are professional musicians, so yes, I guess you could say just kind of part of the family business at a certain point. So yeah, that's how I started.
Are we on? I see that somebody's avatar is a little baby Yoda, and so that's kind of funny. It made me remember that one of the main reasons I really started getting into classical music when I was a kid were the movie scores from Star Wars and the John Williams scores, Indiana Jones, all of that really beautiful music, which actually has a lot of overlap with like Tchaikovsky and Prokofiev. So it was kind of a window into sound worlds and instruments and orchestral sounds and stuff like that.
And my story is a lot like Abby's. I come from a musical family. I grew up in Puerto Rico, so I see somebody said, si tienen alguna pregunta, pueden escribirlas en el chat. I will answer them in Spanish if you want. And my father played in the symphony there when I was growing up, and my mother taught at the conservatory, so I was always surrounded by music. They say that I chose the violin, but I don't know if I believe them. And yeah, I mean, I can tell you that what inspired me to love chamber music specifically was actually when I was 12, we moved to California, and I went to a really special school in Berkeley that was based around chamber music. And it was my experiences there at the Crowden School that inspired me to fall in love with quartet and want to become a quartet musician. I see we have, when did we get together? I will answer that as well. So our quartet started in 2010. So the quartet is now a little more than 10 years old. So it's been a little while. Okay, so then we have, how do you guys build relationships, team building, other than playing together? Who wants to take that one?
I don't think any singular one of us can fully answer this question. I think it's a compilation of all 4 of us together as a result of, you know, the way that we work together. But I'll share my aspect. I think a big part of the outside of playing together is just sort of how we understand each other as people and how we relate to each other as people, and, you know, forming a relationship with somebody in a in a work environment. I mean, I've never found playing in a string quartet to be the typical, your standard 9-to-5 office work environment. There's a lot more to it. There's a lot more emotion. There's a lot more compassion and camaraderie in it. Because to me, it feels like we're all working towards something that's feels bigger than ourselves. And, building our relationship with one another, for me, is about the little things. Something as small as knowing what your quartet mate's like coffee order is, feels very precious to me. Or something as big as, this is a big life event for one of my quartet mates and stuff. So you go from ranging from the itty bitty things like the coffee order to the big things like any of our individual big life events. And we all bring that to our music making together, which kind of informs us all in a way that's bigger than just we sit in rehearsal, we play our instruments, and we have a shared musical vision together, because we understand each other as humans, as people. And that's an incredible shared experience as a job to have.
Okay, the next question is, how long have you been playing for? I will tell you that I started when I was 3, and I won't tell you how old I am, but I've been playing for a very, very long time.
I just started last year, but I practiced really hard.
Like Carla, I also started when I was 3 years old and will not share how old I am now. You can use the internet for that.
Okay,
And I started when I was 9.
And I believe Carlos was actually
7.
7. So he's now 8 years old. Okay, when was your first time in a concert? Well, in my mom's womb when she was playing her recitals for me.
Oh, I don't even remember. That's a good question.
I don't remember, but I remember when I started paying attention. And for me, it's when things started to get more interesting. There was more visual, there was more stuff happening, and it was like going to the ballet or going to the opera. And then I would like run down and peek into the orchestra pit and like watch everyone like mess with their instruments and stuff. Like when there was a lot going on, I remember those concerts. And then I started playing the cello. And then the concerts got increasingly more interesting because I was able to go to recitals of the legendary people, Rostropovich and Janos Starker, and a very young Yo-Yo Ma. And that was really a unique experience. And so I started paying attention even more. And here we are.
So then we got a really nice compliment from somebody here. Your playing is so crisp and strikes an amazing balance between perfection and something beautiful created by humans. How do you work together to make this happen? So what's our rehearsal technique like? First of all, thank you so much for saying that. We are always looking to find new and meaningful things to work on in our music. And especially in this repertoire, we spend a lot of time sort of like pulling things apart and going really slowly and trying to really understand this music. This doesn't have a lot of tradition behind it, meaning there aren't that many recordings and things. And so a lot of our rehearsal techniques that we use for this is to break down the parts, go slowly. You may have heard this from your teachers before. So a lot of probably the same kind of things you guys are doing, but just a little bit broader. Okay, we have so many questions that I want to make sure we get to them. So how did we meet? And why do we play? I actually met Carlos at the Aspen Music Festival a long time ago. and I met Paul's brother a long time ago, before I met Paul, before the quartet existed. And Abby and I worked together before she was in the quartet. And so, the music world's really small. So look to your right, look to your left, meet your friends that you're with right now. They might be the same people you're working with for a long time. Why do we play? Anybody want to take that one?
Because it's fun.
Fulfilling.
Because it's challenging. It's a puzzle. It's always a mystery. There's always something to figure out. It's an endless journey. I've been very inspired in my life by an older generation of people, and they're playing incredibly well into their mid to late 80s and some of them 90s. And I always ask the question of like, how do you still play so well? And there's a strong connection to Casals for a lot of these people. Pablo Casals, one of probably the father of the cello, the modern cello. And he's at like 90, somebody said, Maestro Casals, why do you keep playing? Why do you keep practicing? He says, because I think I'm seeing improvement. And so I think that's one of the great things about being a musician, is that it keeps you sharp, it keeps you alive, it keeps you curious, and it keeps you in tune with the world around you, hopefully.
Okay, we have a question here. Really important question. When you're playing, do your hands ever hurt? And then the other part of that question is, did you ever make a mistake?
Every day I make mistakes.
Every day.
All the time.
Sometimes we have pain, and you have to be really careful and manage it and make sure that the pain is not, doesn't go beyond just exhaustion. There's a big difference between exhaustion and pain. And something, our bodies, a lot of times we forget that we're like a lot like athletes, but I like to say that, like my friend says, that we're athletes with the tiny muscles. So these are our tiny muscles. I also like to say that this is where my abs live, my six pack is here. And so, you have to really take care of your body the same way that an athlete would, and just really use self-awareness. And if you ever have pain, talk to your teachers about it. Okay, how often do we practice together?
Well, right now, a lot. We play a lot together. I mean, being a string quartet is not just about meeting up and learning pieces for a concert that's coming up. It's such a cumulative process where it's not just about learning the notes of a specific piece together, but it's, it goes back to that learning each other as individuals and learning how we're going to play off of one another and what each other's tendencies are, and interpreting that and living with that. And, I would say that we spend a lot of time together, a lot. Yeah, sorry about that.
I would say probably, let's say, when we rehearse together, we rehearse somewhere around 4 hours, and we've been lately hitting like 4 or 5 times a week. And then we also have to prepare individually for what we're working on together. So that gives you kind of an idea.
Then you got to practice.
Yeah. Okay. We kind of answered this one, but maybe someone wants to take this. What inspires you to keep playing? What drives your passion for music?
I'll say a perfect example of that is the concert you heard tonight. It's that music is never ending. It's what I said earlier, and it's true for in another aspect of like the infinite possibilities of music. And most of these pieces you heard tonight, you probably heard them for the first time, most of you, I'd say. And a lot of the repertoire on this project of ours, the music isn't even available, even though it was written decades and decades ago. And so it's because of things like that keep things going, keep things alive, because there's always music is always in motion, music is always fluid, and it's ever changing. And I think that's an interesting journey to be on.
Okay, so we have, how do we decide which pieces you play? So, with our quartet, one of the things that we really try to do is we want to give you guys an experience, to tell a story, take you on a journey. And so it's really important that that message is given to you and that you feel that thread all the way through. So when we pick our repertoire, we pick that with this in mind. So for example, like what you saw tonight, it really belongs to a very specific thing, in this case, this project. Usually the repertoire comes from the idea. So if we have an idea we want to present, for example, like let's say folk songs, then that would be the initial idea. And then from there, we would start thinking about repertoire. Luckily for us, there's a lot of great things that are written for string quartet.
One of the cool things that our quartet uniquely has done in order to make this idea even more whole is to start arranging pieces for string quartet that don't exist in order to complete telling this tale or exploring this sort of dimension of our group understanding of a concept. And our very first recording project was called the Bach-Gould Project, where we arranged Bach's Goldberg variations, which were originally for harpsichord, for string quartet, which hadn't really been done in the way that we did it. And since then, we've sort of filled our programming with our own arrangements, whether it be of tango music, of popular American folk songs from the 50s and 60s, of traditional Latin folk songs, whatever it is. It's become sort of part of our repertoire. And that's only to say that it's another infinite idea about music. So it's about message, and it's about communicating and telling whatever story you want to tell, and finding the music to support that. And that's really the genesis of our program.
Then we have,
Oh, I was just gonna say, here's a really interesting question is, what is our advice for young musicians like us playing in a youth orchestra in 2021?
yes.
What are some of our best memories, early string quartet or youth orchestra?
Well, I had a wonderful youth orchestra experience myself. Like I said, I grew up in Puerto Rico, but when I was 12, we moved to the Bay Area, and I was in the San Francisco Symphony Youth Orchestra. And I met some of the most wonderful people there. And like I said before, actually, I think the music making was really special because of the friendships I made there, and then are even so much more meaningful to me now because those friendships that I made there and those mentors I had are people that I still work with now, and they're still my closest friends. And I'm so thankful to those experiences.
For me, I would say that starting in your youth orchestra and the chamber music sort of aspect of the youth orchestra that I grew up playing in, which was the Greater Miami Youth Symphony, it was knowing the largeness of the music world and the largeness of the scope of what I actually had to do that I didn't know I was needing to do in my little Suzuki books. And it sort of really amped me. It amped me up, and it showed me the stuff I had to do if I ever wanted to pretend to do this thing that I actually now call my life. And so it was an eye-opener, youth orchestra, for me.
My experience in the Philadelphia Youth Orchestra actually helped me know I wanted to go into music, because just being surrounded by like 100 people just like playing with such passion, the most amazing music, the Brahms Fourth Symphony, Rachmaninoff's Second Symphony, Verdi Requiem, just the most amazing music that could ever exist, just so like passionately, because it was everybody's first time. Just being surrounded by that sonic passion just convinced me that there's no better feeling.
I don't have, I mean, everything that my colleagues shared, I only echo. I mean, being a young musician involved in a community of other young musicians, such as a youth orchestra or a youth chamber music program, you know, it's a different kind of camaraderie than you have just going to everyday school. You have a different kind of shared passion with your colleagues, and I found it to be a very special, unique bond that I made with other people at a young age. And like Carla said, many of these people are now my colleagues that I work with every single day, which is very exciting.
We have a question here that says, does it ever feel tiring to play so much? How do you stay motivated to practice and maintain interest in your instrument? That's a really good question. And I think that this is something that we all definitely struggle with. I think for me, it's knowing that there's always something that I can do to better myself. That there's something that you can improve on, that you're, you know, investigating, that you're, you know, discovering something new. I mean, that's what drives me. But yes, it does feel tiring to play so much sometimes, but it's also exciting. And under normal circumstances, we would play a lot more concerts with live audiences, and there's something that's so wonderful about that too, is interacting with people and getting in normal circumstances, we would be with you in person, and we would get to have this experience too, and that's part of what makes it great. The exhaustion is happy exhaustion.
I see a quick question here that asking if we do music full time or do we have other jobs. We definitely do music full time, but that doesn't necessarily mean our only job is to play the instruments. Being in a string quartet's a little bit like running a small business, and even just being a freelance musician like we are also requires lots of other sort of life skills in order to just keep your life on track. So I would say that music permeates every facet of the way we make money, but there are many ways to do that.
Do we ever get sleep? Sometimes, yes.
I saw what profit do we make from music? It's priceless. Priceless.
Yes. Okay. Let's see. Was there a specific person that influenced your musical career? I think we kind of went over that one. But for me, it was my teacher in high school, Ann Crowden. She definitely influenced my musical career in a very impactful way.
So people are leaving because it's getting late.
It's usually your teachers that are going to be the most impactful and the most inspiring, and the ones that are going to lead you in the path of great success.
Yeah.
So always revere, respect, admire, and listen to all of your teachers intently.
See, a very wonderful question that I'd love to talk about is what would be our motivational speech for a young musician in this pandemic, isolated at home, rehearsing on devices. And you know what I will say to you is that as a young musician, as a student, you are not alone. Professional musicians all around the world are also experiencing what I imagine is exactly what you're experiencing. And you know, for me, I think something is that's very important is this has been a really incredible time for discovery. I can say as a professional musician, sometimes the time really does get away from you, and it can be difficult to find windows of time to be able to just marinate in certain things, and or you know, say today is going to be the day, or this month I'm going to listen to the complete Haydn string quartets, or I'm going to listen to the entire Mahler symphonies, or whatever. And I'm not saying you have to do a bunch of listening projects in order to enrich your life, but there is room for that kind of discovery. Something that has kept me motivated is kind of entertaining all of those ideas I never felt I had time for. So that would be my personal advice. I'm sure some of my colleagues might have other tidbits to share. I'll let them do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with everything Abby said. I think that, you know, whatever you can do to get away from a device whenever possible in these times is also so important. Everything we do now is on Zoom. Everything is with our phones and everything. And if you can find a way to have creative moments away from screens, that's another thing I think everybody should be doing, finding your moments like that. I want to make sure we're good on time. I know
Okay,
that you had to leave us.
I think so too. Yeah, because I think I'm going to start wrapping this up. Sue had to go and rehearse with the brass and the woodwinds, so she left us. But thank you guys so much for being with us tonight. I think it was very insightful, especially sharing all your history and sharing your music, first of all, obviously, but also sharing what you think is going on right now. That's very important. I think that's why I mentioned those questions. How can we go on in this isolated world with music, especially with a youth orchestra, when it's not our job? We just want to come to rehearsal because it's fun. We want to see our friends. We want to make music with them. I think that's the most important part, and finding a purpose in that is the most important thing.
Yes, absolutely.
So thanks so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hope to see you all in person soon.
Wear your masks, wash your hands. I don't have to tell you to vote anymore. We took care of that. But also to go on what you just said, it's hopefully if we all do these things, this is a temporary situation and we will come out. So, and we'll see you in person. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure and an honor to join you guys tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right, bye-bye.
Thank you. You guys really inspired me.
Oh.
Thank you.
Bye.
This means everything to me. Thank you for doing this.
Oh.
Someday I really want to enjoy music, and I hope that 2020 is going to be hopefully the best year ever. Thank you for doing this. This
2020?
is really
2021.
2021. I don't know if I said 2020. I'm sorry. But thank you. This really means a lot to me for you guys doing this. Thank you.
Glad to hear it.
Bye.
Bye. Have a
Bye.
wonderful evening. Take
You
care.
too. Bye.
Mhm.